Yeah, I just watched a Netflix show about paranormal investigations. It's like a new Netflix series, and the title of my video is "The Patriarchy Never Fails to Disappoint." In its expressions of dominance, cruelty, and oppression. This is the calling card. The three core attributes of the patriarchy is dominance, oppression, and cruelty. And one of the stories, which I think was like the third episode, was the Yuba Five that went missing. It was five men aged 25 to 35 that went missing in California. And it was like Northern California. And they were men that were developmentally disabled. Um, some were autistic, one was schizophrenic, and and it's an unsolved mystery. They, abandoned a car, way out of the way. They went to a basketball game together. The five of them were friends, and they were men that kept to their same routine. Like all the family said, they would have, gone to the basketball game and then come home. They were seen at a convenience store buying chocolate milk and candy, which is, what they would share together. And then from there, instead of going home, and they had a big basketball game for their tournament the next day, instead of going home, and family said these were men that never spent a night anywhere else, always went home. Instead of going home, they ended up with their car being abandoned in Northern California mountains. Very treacherous terrain. It was February, and the the car was abandoned, and there were four footprint tracks up into the mountains, and and the men were not dressed for going out into the snow. They had jeans and like t-shirts on. They were at an indoor basketball game. So it was an unsolved mystery, 50 years later, and their bodies were found. Four of the bodies were found, decomposed, starvation. But what were they doing on that mountain? And there was one person in the show that said, like, why wasn't this investigated more? I think it was a woman that said that there was this bully in town that had it out for one of the guys. And they never came up in the investigation. And, like, it just makes perfect sense that the bully, maybe with some of his friends, maybe they had a gun, somebody got in the car with these guys, the other one followed in the other car, and they made these men, I think they killed the one because the one body was never found, and there were only four sets of footprints going up into the mountains. They probably killed the one, had a gun to the head of the others, and said, "You retards." And that's in the papers. They actually called them retards. They said five retarded men missing. But these bullies, like, picked on them, don't come back. And, it's a very sad story. Wintertime in the mountains, their bodies were found months later. But why? I don't understand why the investigation didn't include these bullies. And this is my point with patriarchy, is the bullies always get away with it. Why weren't they investigated? And this time it wasn't women that were being picked on. Usually it's like women are picked on by these men. This time it was, disabled men were picked on because patriarchy says that might makes right, that cruelty and oppression is law. And that's why I say patriarchy never disappoints. The cruelty of men on this planet never disappoints. And I was thinking that, like, the past 5,000 years under patriarchy, that like half the things men have done have been the wrong things. Like, the more I see, the more you learn about history, the more you uncover story after story of oppression and cruelty and dominance. You keep coming back to the same problem. Men under patriarchy. They've been taught over and over again that cruelty, oppression, and dominance is king. And they're not stopped. They get away with it. But it's ending now. It's ending now. And what I would say is patriarchy never disappoints. Patriarchy never disappoints in its expressions of dominance, cruelty, and oppression. It's the only tools it has. It's the only tools it has.